Hey guys, it's Shade here, back to bring you another video in Borderlands 3. If you like the video, please drop a like, and if you want to see more future content, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell to get notified for my future videos. So with that out the way, let's get into the video. So in this video, I'll be going over my new build for Amara that expands on my previous conductive puncher build. With this build, I'll be going over some of the terror mechanics as well as the anointments you want to keep an eye out for in order to get the most damage out of your terror stacks as possible. To start, let's go over the skills I take and why I take them. We'll primarily be going down the Brawl tree, and we'll spend the rest of our points in the Fist of the Elements tree. So to start, I'm going to be taking 3 into personal space. So this is going to be great for any bonus damage from any guns that I use up close. I mean, 36% of damage dealt is great. And from some testing that Deutschlands was doing, it actually can scale up to past 36%. I'm not entirely sure the exact numbers. I have to do a little bit more testing myself. We're also going to be taking 5 points into Clarity just to get that passive regen. That just helps for survivability and, you know, just keeping us up. We're going to take 5 into Helping Hands for the 40% damage reduction. We're going to take 1 into Find Your Center and 3 into Mindfulness. So Mindfulness will just keep our move speed up, and Find Your Center will give us more melee damage. Then we're going to go back to Root to Rise. We're going to take 4 into Root to Rise. We're going to go ahead and grab 1 into Guardian Angel. And I'm going to go ahead and take 3 into Samsara, just because when I do use, you know, Fist over Matter, Samsara is a great skill, and it's a lot of fun to use. Last skill we're going to take is Blitz, to give us that melee override and that extra melee damage. Blitz does make, you know, the melee so much better, just because you're getting a multiplicative bonus when it is up. So it's a really good skill to take, and I highly recommend taking it. So we're going to go ahead and spend the rest of our points in Fist of the Elements tree, like I said. We're going to go ahead and take 5 into Anima. And that will just give our status effect duration 100% chance, or 100% length, and more damage from status effects. We're going to go ahead and take 5 out of 5 in Tempest, because that's our best damage dealing skill on Amara, in my opinion. We're going to take 1 into Illuminated Fist to convert our melee damage to her action skill. I'm going to take 4 into Infusion, just so that I can take Dread, Deep Well, and 3 into Indiscriminate. We're going to go ahead and take the last 2 points into Sustainment to keep our health just regenning as much as possible from elemental damage that we deal. A quick thing to note is your melee damage will not proc Sustainment, which in my opinion is a huge downside to the ability. However, if you're using an artifact called the Static Charge effect that chains between enemies will actually heal you, and since we're going to be doing so much melee damage, that will give you a consistent heal all the time. We're going to be primarily using Ties That Bind, and we're going to use Allure as the augment just to pull people into that Ties That Bind. And I'm primarily going to be using the Shock action skill, but really you could use, you know, Soulfire or the Corrosive one, just depending on the situation. So with the build done, with the skills done, we're going to go ahead and take a look at some of the gear that's best used on Amara. So right now, really, the first 2 guns you take really can be anything you want to use. I would recommend using something that's not a shotgun for the first 2. However, I mean, if you really like a certain shotgun and have a way of regenerating your ammo, then go ahead and take a shotgun. Primarily, what we're going to be looking for on anointments is we're going to look for that Wild Terrify, deal 50% bonus cryo damage on the guns. And on the shield and grenade, you want to have a way of applying terror to yourself, whether that be through melee or action skill end. So action skill end will actually be the better, in my opinion, just because it's more consistent and you're constantly going to be getting that. And the other anointment you want to get on either the shield or grenade is when terrified, gain increased damage, fire rate. The more terror you have, the higher the bonus. So the interesting thing about the terror anointments is that, for example, deal 50% bonus cryo damage. That cryo damage gets put on every damage source. So your grenades will deal 50% bonus cryo damage, your guns will deal 50% bonus cryo damage, and your melees will deal 50% bonus cryo damage. The fourth slot here that I'm using is just a utility gun, something to strip my shields when I want, or get some more stacks of mindfulness, stuff like that. You realistically don't have to use this if you don't mind moving slower, but I just enjoy using mindfulness to get around the map quickly. As for these two anointments, you can have this anointment on either the grenade or the shield, and it doesn't matter. You can swap them around as long as you have a way of applying terror to yourself and a way, or the gun damage and fire rate. Next, we're going to be using the Nimbus class mod with the +5 stacks and Tempest. This is by far the best class mod in my opinion on Amara, because it will increase all of her damage sources, and by a lot, since it's a elemental multiplicative. And you know, it also increases that 50% bonus cryo damage that you apply. So it's really great. Like, all of this synergizes really well. The cloud damage gets increases from the Nimbus as well, and you know, it just works really well. And finally, we're going to be using the Cryostone static charge. So this is really kind of up to you. If you want to do a primarily melee build, which is what I'm showing you today, you're going to want to get an elemental stone and either a static charge or commander planetoid or a white elephant. White elephant will really only best be used in boss fights, but the static charge and the commander planetoid will allow you to one-shot a lot of enemies. And since we're going to be freezing a lot of people, it gets insane the amount of damage you deal with your melees and like face puncher and normal melee attacks. Just to go over what shield I'm using a level 1 brawler ward. You can actually get a level 1 by, if you find a brawler ward that drops from Grave Ward and don't pick it up. If you join on a friend that's in Sanctuary and join as a level 1 character, you can actually use the Lost Loot system to pick up that brawler ward at a level 1. And I can show you guys a little bit of video for that as well. And finally, the grenade really doesn't matter. You want to get the best grenade you can, but as long as you have this increased damage and fire rate and the terror stacks to yourself, you'll be finding that you'll deal a large amount of damage. Just to note, once again, the terrified anointments will affect all damage sources. So it says gain increased damage and fire rate. It says increased damage, but that doesn't only apply to weapon damage. It actually applies to all sources of damage as well, just like the cryo anointment. And the exact percentages for this is actually for every stack of terror you get 5% increased damage, and you can have a max of 3 stacks of terror. And this is a multiplicative, multiplicative damage boost. So it will actually take all of your gun damage and all of the boosts that you already have to your damage and apply after all of that. So let's say your gun, for example, does 173 damage, right? And then you multiply that by 3 because you're getting 300% more damage, for example, from gun damage. Then you take 15% of that total, and that is what this anointment will add to your damage in total. So yeah, I mean, I'll be showing a little bit more gameplay of how this actually all works together, but you'll see that, you know, with the Cryostone static charge and stuff like that, you'll be consistently healing yourself with the sustainment, and you'll be dealing a ton of damage just in melee attacks, because the frozen enemies will take 3 times more damage. You're going to be freezing a lot more people a lot more quickly. And then on top of that, with Ties That Bind, when you lock somebody and freeze them, you will be dealing that 3 times damage to all people that it's attached to. So, you know, you can really take out a lot of people that way. I am using the Face Puncher primarily to deal with anointed enemies, because even though we're using a lot of cryo damage, just the sheer amount of our melee damage is really enough to knock down most anointed enemies. And if you're locking other enemies with ties that bind, and an anointed enemy is linked to that enemy that you have locked, all that damage that you apply to them will be applied to the anointed, even if it is cryo damage. So if you have like a 3 times melee on a person that's frozen and locked, and there's an anointed enemy there, you'll be dealing a ton of damage to that anointed enemy that's linked. Okay guys, that's going to wrap it up for this video. If you liked the video, please leave a like, and if you have any comments or suggestions for what I can do to improve or what you want to see next, please leave it in the comments down below. I do read and reply to every comment and really appreciate your support. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time. Peace.